Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Islamic House of Wisdom. We're about halfway there. We're 15 days in. We've got to take advantage of this blessed month. Only 2 more weeks left. Inshallah, we'll see you here more often. For those that enjoyed today's iftar dinner, don't worry. We have it again next Saturday. And for those that weren't able to make it today, there will be tickets for next Saturday's iftar, inshallah. The past 2 Saturdays, we've been blessed with a young brother who is courageous and brave enough to come and take the stand and share with us his research and his wisdom that he's compiled at his house. And we figured that we should also give him another opportunity and give you guys an opportunity to listen to his beautiful words once again. So without any further ado, please welcome Brother Adam to the podium. Ba'da salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما. Surah Al-Isra, part of verse 23. Now, many people these days are asking, why is our society slowly becoming more corrupt? It has to do with our appreciation with everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. These are some examples of things that Allah has given us. Allah has given us the freedom to think, to feel emotions, and the biggest of them all, our parents. You see, all of these things that Allah has given us, these things is what distinguish us between us and animals. And Islam has categorized values into different groups. The first group being ibadah, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Siyam, salah, all of those things Allah tells you to do. And the second value, the second most valuable thing that has the most value is our parents. Helping them, talking with them, socializing with them. And our biggest misconception is that we think our parents are just people telling us to do things. But in reality, they're a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're a ni'mah, and a ni'mah is something that Allah has given us, and if it goes away, it will never come back. Now, most people don't know the value of their parents until they're gone. And a contributor to us not seeing this value in our parents is bad friends. Ya waylati, laytani, lam attakhudhu fulanan khalila. Oh no, I wish that I did not choose this person as a friend. Nowadays, people are putting their bad friends and their desires over their parents, and that is a really big contributor to corruption. We don't listen to our parents as much as we do to our friends. You tend to see when their parents tell their child to do something, they argue, and they're annoyed by their parents telling them to do something. But when your friend tells you to do something, you do what they say and you respect them. And that is also a contributor to corruption. The reason why is because bad friends, when they tell us to do something and we do it, and they're telling us to do something bad that will transform us into someone bad. When in reality, your parents are the ones who raised you and put you up for your own good. Now, I'm not saying friends are bad. No, instead Allah encourages us to have good friends because they can lead us to heaven. But in Islam, as we learned before, friends are not on top of our parents in value. Now you see, even psychologists say, to gain happiness, have quality time with your parents. Talk to them, get advice, take that load off of your shoulders. And I'm going to end with this story. A manager put an ad on a newspaper for interviews. The title of this job is Director of Operations. The responsibilities and requirements for this job need mobility. You must work standing up, bending down, 24 hours, 7 days a week. You have no breaks, and you can only eat lunch after the associate is done eating. So you're taking care of someone, you can only eat after you give the person and after they have done eating. You have to also have excellent negotiation and interpersonal skill. If your associate is sick, you have to give them medicine. You have to know the culinary arts. You have to cook for them. You have to give them food. You have to give them constant attention. You have to go with them. You have to socialize with them. You have to work in a chaotic environment. Even though there's crying and yelling and everything, you can still work with them, and you're still happy. You're not gonna argue like, oh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You have no vacations and no holiday celebrations. Eid, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all the other things. And your salary is completely nothing. Now you may be asking, who does this job? There's billions of people who do this job all over this world. And you want to know who that person is? Our moms. And inshallah, when we become parents, we will teach our children what's right and what's wrong. Wa salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, Brother Adam, for those beautiful words. It really takes a lot of courage to come up here and speak in front of an audience. I commend you and I encourage you. Inshallah, 5-10 years from now, who knows? Brother Adam is going to be the one up here and giving the full 30-45 minute lecture, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just a few announcements before we continue on with tonight's program. Firstly, I wanted to let everybody know that there is summer Arabic Islamic schools for the parents that are interested in enrolling their kids. They'll begin on the 4th of July and will continue on throughout the whole summer. If you're interested, please see the front desk. Also, I'm not sure if you noticed, but there are boxes situated inside the Mehdi Hall. The Dar Hikmah is collecting canned foods, inshallah, to distribute them at the end of Ramadan to the families in need. So please contribute. Your contributions are welcome. Tonight, after the program, after the English lecture, we will be shifting to the parking lot where our guest speaker will be hosting a bonfire. For those that are interested, please stick around. They're going to be cooking s'mores and ice cream, cookies, and whatnot. So please, if you're interested, it's a Saturday night. There isn't much to do tomorrow. It's a good atmosphere for your children and for yourselves to get around the campfire, inshallah. We have Arabic lectures by Sayyid Muhammad As-Sabiri inside the masjid, currently simultaneously as the English lecture. Tonight's English lecture will be with Sayyid Abu Dhar, and inshallah on Monday we will begin by welcoming Hajj Hassanin Rajab Ali to continue the English program until the end of Ramadan. Tonight and yesterday we celebrated the auspicious birth of our second Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, who was the first grandchild and the first child to be introduced into Rasulullah's household. The Holy Quran states, يَخْرُجُ مِنْهُمَ اللُّؤْلُؤُ وَالْمَرْجَانِ. There come forth from them pearls and corals. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq said that these pearls in the Quran, they're referring to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. And the beauty of the Quran is it emphasizes on Ahlul Bayt, not just with this verse, but it continues. When we take a look at the Treaty of Mubahala, for instance, where the verse says, come, let's call our sons and your sons, our women and your women, ourselves and yourselves, then supplicate earnestly and invoke the curse of Allah upon the liars. تعالوا ندعو أبناءنا وأبناءكم ونساءنا ونساءكم وأنفسنا وأنفسكم ثم نبتحل فنجعل لعنة الله على الكاذبين. And the companions, the night before this mubahala with the Christians of Najran, they were wondering, who's the Prophet going to take with him? Who's he going to bring? When he says our sons, our women, ourselves, who are these individuals that Rasulullah is going to take with him to this mubahala with the Christians of Najran? And in the place of our sons, abna'ana, the Prophet took Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein, his two beloved grandchildren. Here tonight is our guest speaker, Sayyid Abu Dhar, who is the executive director of the Mainstay Foundations, which, by the way, yesterday, if you weren't here, threw a huge celebration for Imam Hassan, distributing raffles and gift cards to different stores, and also generously handing out 10,000 pieces of candy. And what better way to celebrate Imam Hassan's birthday than with generosity? Imam Hassan was known as the Kareem of Ahlul Bayt, the person that would give. So much so that we have an ahadith that he distributed everything that he had twice, fully, completely in his life, 2 times. Now when I say he completely gave everything, I mean if somebody came up to you and asked you for help, you give them your car, your house, your clothes. This is what Imam Hassan did. Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba, this is why he's known as Kareem of Ahlul Bayt. That he gave so much that when it came time to give his shoes, he was willing to give it. And yesterday, Sayyid Abu Dhar kindly with Islamic House of Wisdom and the Youth of Wisdom combined with their efforts and distributed candy, and he encouraged the children to go outside and share candy with one another. So we're truly blessed to have these organizations and these programs, and we're truly blessed to have these role models in our lives and in our faith. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Sayyid Abu Dhar to the podium tonight and inshallah tomorrow night. بعد الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
For the love of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
For the love of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, please recite a second loud salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
For the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue in this holy month, and for His mercy to be bestowed upon all of us with the loudest of your voices, please recite a third loud salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على حبيب إله العالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. Dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Mubarak to you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of your deeds in this holy month, to answer your supplications, and to help all of us elevate in our connection with Him so that we can seek repentance, so that we can seek forgiveness and ultimately achieve the rewards in this holy month. Dear respected brothers and sisters, 2 weeks have passed by and we have 2 more weeks remaining in this holy month. And in the next 2 weeks, what's especially important will be the nights of power, Layali al-Qadr, which I believe will be Wednesday night, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. The 19th night, 21st night, and the 23rd night. And in these holy nights, the nights of power, the greatest nights during the year, one of the most important things for us to engage in as we seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seek nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is supplicating, reciting dua. And in the next 2 nights, tonight and tomorrow, I want to spend some time to talk about dua. To talk about what are the conditions for our dua, our supplication to be accepted. What are the etiquettes that we should observe and adhere to so that we can truly benefit from our dua and garner the benefits and rewards of supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran instructs all of us and directs all of us to supplicate to Him, to speak with Him, to engage with Him, to connect with Him through the means of dua, through the means of supplications, whether we are prostrating or raising our hands, whether we are asking for repentance or health or sustenance, whatever it may be. Ultimately, when we are in the state of dua, in the state of supplication, it is us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. the relationship of the servant before the master is manifested in the best of ways. Sallallahu Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So this holy month is the month of dua, and especially important are the next 2 weeks, where truly all of us should spend time, day in and day out, especially in the late nights before Salat al-Fajr, to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that very intimate level. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Holy Quran, He directs all of us to call upon Him. He states in Surah Ghafir verse 60, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكُمْ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse, He states, and your Lord says, call upon me, I will answer you. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making an affirmative promise. He's promising all of us, He's telling us, call upon me, pray to me, and I will answer you. It's a promise, it's a covenant from the Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In another verse, to reinforce that principle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's being called by the servant, by the believer, He will answer, He will fulfill our needs. He states in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 186, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. If the servant asks about me, I am near him. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِي إِذَا دَعَانِي. I will answer the suppliant when he calls upon me. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse is saying that I am near you, I am closer to you. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I am closer to you than your own jugular vein. And when you call upon me, when you supplicate to me, I am near and I will answer you. Now, we read these two verses and we're rest assured, we're comforted by the fact that when we call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we supplicate in the day and night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a covenant that He will answer our call. Yet, the question is, there are many instances, there are many examples, instances, situations where we make prayers, where we supplicate, where we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for various things, yet we feel that He is not answering our needs. He does not reply to our requests. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sustenance, for rizq. I don't see that rizq materializing in my life. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure my ill mother. She's not cured and she passes away. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless me in my school, with my grades, with my studies, and I'm not doing so well in school. So how do we reconcile these two matters? How do we reconcile the verses in the Holy Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, call upon me, I will answer you, and the fact that we make supplications at times, yet they're not answered? Now, in order to answer that question, there are two principles that we should keep in mind. There are two pillars, there are two conditions, two principles that we truly need to believe in and make sure they are part and parcel of ourselves in order for our dua to truly be effective and to render the result that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised for all of us, where if we truly call upon Him, He will answer us. The first principle, the first condition, in order for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our supplications, to accept our dua, is that we need to have trust in the dua. We need to have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, listening to our supplications and answering our supplications. A lot of times the problem is that we supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we make dua, but truly in our minds, in our hearts, we do not really sense that the dua is going to be effective. We do it because we're told to do it. We do it because we're looking for some type of hope. We have faith. We're in need. We're desperate. We want to call upon a greater power. But really within, in terms of our conscious and subconscious, we doubt the dua will actually be effective. We doubt that what I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when I raise my hands before Him, when I ask Him for all sorts of different things, worldly matters and non-worldly matters, He will actually answer me. The Prophet ﷺ says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that أنا عند ظن عبدي فلا يظن بي إلا خيرا, that I am at my servant's trust, for he should only think good of me. We should never, at any point in our lives, no matter what happens, even if we feel like our supplications are not being answered, and we'll go into some of the reasons why, we should never ever feel despair. We should never ever lose hope or doubt the effectiveness of our dua. Because if we are truly sincere in our dua, if we observe the proper etiquettes and we adhere to the conditions of the dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will surely answer our supplications when there is truly a benefit for us. And we'll talk about that later on in the presentation. So a lot of people, and maybe some of us, raise doubt in terms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answering our dua, and that our dua will be effective. And sometimes the reason why we say that, you know what, my dua is ineffective, is because we have this misconception, or we misconstrue this concept in our faith of predestination. And I want you to pay attention to this. Sometimes we say that, you know what, there are certain things that are predestined, or sometimes people will say that everything is predestined, everything is predetermined. Before I was created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has charted my path and has decided what I will do and where I will end up. And therefore, my dua will never be able to alter that course. That course has been drawn by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will take place, and my dua will not play a role in any way, shape, or manner to alter or affect that course that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for me. That's kind of one dimension to this misconception and misconstrue of the notion of predestination. The other side of it is that there are certain things that are not predestined, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not decided and determined for me, and therefore because He did not predetermine these things for me, my dua will never be able to make it happen. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has predestined for me to live 45 years, and to live in poverty, and to not be successful with my family, if He has predetermined all of these things, my dua, even if I ask for sustenance and for success, prosperity, all of these different things that I desire in this life, that will not make it happen, because these are certain things that God already predetermined, and nothing will alter them because they're coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, the issue here that people raise is that God predetermines our fate, everything in our life, and the dua that we supplicate to Him in no way, shape, or manner will alter that, will affect that. He has created a course that we will proceed in, and nothing will allow it to shift left or right. What God has predetermined will happen inevitably. Now, that is a misunderstanding, a misperception of the idea of predestination and how dua actually impacts and affects our lives. To answer that issue, yes, indeed, everything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates is all predestined. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-knowledgeable. When He creates us, He knows of everything that will unfold. He knows of everything that will take place. And Everything is predetermined. But the caveat, and this is where the answer to the question comes in. Everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala predestines, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows of, what's going to actually translate in this life, in our life, is conditioned and tied to causes and reasons. And that's the key. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates me, He knows, for example, I will live for 55 years. I will be successful in my career. I will have 2 children. I will be doing 1, 2, and 3. He knows all of that. There is a course that I will take. But that predestination is within a system of causes, a system of reasons, where when I live my life with the free will that I have, the actions and decisions that I make will actually lead me to effectuate and make all of these things happen in my life. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created me and placed me on this earth and He Himself, the Almighty, has decided my fate, suspending my free will and any control that I have over my life. On the complete contrary, we don't believe in that. There are some schools of thought, there are some religions that believe in that. They believe that everything is predestined, everything is predetermined. There is nothing that you could do to alter your destination. We believe that's wrong. We believe that that's actually against the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That if we were to believe in that, then we are actually undermining the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates all of us and He bestows to all of us free will. And with that free will, we take charge of our life. We are sitting in the driver's seat and we make decisions, we think about things, we do certain things, and for all of the decisions that we make and all of the routes that we seek in this life, there are consequences. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a system of causes and effects. And in order for what we ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our prayers, in our dua, to materialize, to effectuate, to actually occur, the system of causes and effects has to take place. One of the causes is what? Dua. When someone is sick, and they're seeking treatment, what do? What does the average normal person do? They go to the doctor, correct? Now going to the doctor, being diagnosed, getting medications, seeking treatment, all of these are natural means that we seek in order to seek treatment, correct? That's a tool that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us that we can seek in order to address that issue when someone is sick. And when you go to the doctor and you get the medication and you receive the treatment and you observe that treatment, all of these are causes that can help your illness, that can cure your illness. Another cause that can be coupled with seeking the material causes in this life to help heal someone, to cure someone, is dua. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you in that case, when you're sick, go seek the doctor, go get the medication, go get the treatment that you need. These are natural means, natural tools. These can be causes to alleviate the illness that you have. But in addition to that, seek another cause that can help you, which is what? Supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's also another cause that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in the systems of causes and effects that can impact your condition and can impact your situation. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So, to address that issue, yes, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates us, things are predestined, predetermined. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows of everything that will unfold and unravel in this life. But it is within a system that He has created of causes and effects. And what I do in this life, the natural causes that I seek in this life will shape and affect my life. And one of those important causes that we should all seek that can alter and affect our life in a very positive way is dua, is supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that leads us to a very important concept in our faith, very core, which is the concept of al-bada'. And what that concept says is that we believe that many of our realities in this life take effect due to material causes, where an individual choice and free will plays a major role in bringing forth certain effects. And I'm going to give you a few examples to kind of put that in perspective. And this shows how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge works. Because what we misunderstand at times is that just because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the knowledge in advance, ahead of time, before He creates us about what we will do and where we will end up, that means that He has predetermined our fate Himself, suspending our free will. That's not how the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. The knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works in the following examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that I will pray due to my choice and my free will to pray. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates Muhammad, and He knows in His infinite and ultimate knowledge, because He is the all-knowledgeable, that Muhammad will pray. It's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created Muhammad and will make him pray. It's that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created Muhammad and has given Muhammad free will, and Muhammad has exercised that free will to make a conscious choice to pray. So who made the decision in that situation to pray? Who's making that decision? Muhammad, correct? The person with his free will, which is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge of that person that He created praying is His knowledge of him being created and him using his free will to make a choice to pray. Another example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that I will be cured from an illness because I chose to take pills and medication. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this advanced knowledge because He is the all-knowledgeable. When He creates us, He can see and He knows of everything that we will do. Every single stage in our lives, He is exposed to that. In that situation, He knows that I will be cured because I have sought treatment. I am taking the medication that I need. I am using the tools that are before me and exercising my free will to seek the natural causes to get the outcome that I want. So the idea here, dear brothers and sisters, is that dua does not contradict the natural causes. Again, to put this in perspective, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created a system, a beautiful, magnificent system. And in this system are us, the people. And in this beautiful system, the way things work is there are causes and there are effects. There are certain things that happen that will render and will produce a certain outcome.
Can you make an announcement? There's a little girl later, 4 years old, upstairs in the
There's a young girl, her age is 3 years old. Her name is Layla. She's upstairs, she's crying, looking for her parents. So in the daycare, sorry. Layla, 3 years old. So she's looking for her family or whoever brought her. So if you can take care of that. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So in this system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, and we're part of that system, there are causes and effects. There are things that happen that will produce a certain outcome. And one of these causes that we should always seek, that does shape and affect our lives, is dua. That does not mean that that is the only tool that we seek, that is the only cause that we seek in this life. That becomes a problem. We live our lives normally. We seek the natural means of causes to get the outcomes that we want. If I want to become a doctor, if I want to become an engineer, if I want to go to school and attain an education that will help me become a successful professional, I can't just sit on my couch and watch TV and just wait for Shahr Ramadan and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, impart on me the knowledge so that I can become a doctor or an engineer. It doesn't work like that. If I am sick, I can't just sit at home and just pray all day and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure me without seeking medication, without going to the doctor. If I want sustenance and I want rizq and I want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me financial resources in this life, I can't just sleep all day and just wait for the blessings to come down on me. I can't do that. In that situation, yes, your dua will be ineffective. Why? Because you're not seeking the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed, which is you seek the natural means and mechanisms, you work hard, you go to the doctor, you study, you do all of these things, you pursue all of these things, and in conjunction with that, you pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you go to the doctor and you seek treatment, when you study, when you work hard and you put the time and effort in your job, and in addition to that, with that, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sustenance, for support, for prosperity, then at that point, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your dua, and your dua will be effective, and your dua will have a very tangible impact in your life. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of everything. He creates everything. He produces everything. And from Him everything comes. But in His wisdom, in His sunnah, He has created a system of causes and effects. A system where if something happens, a result will come out of it. And He wants us to live within that system and to carry our daily lives, living a normal life, pursuing all of these different natural means within the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So that's the first principle, is that we need to have a conviction. We need to know down within that when I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my dua will be effective. My dua is meaningful. My dua will translate into something in my life, and it can shape and it can alter my life. For example, and this is a good example to keep in mind. Age. Living in this life. So the age that you live, how many years you spend in this life. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates you, He knows how many years you're going to live, correct? He knows when you will die. He knows how you will die. But with the free will that we have, there are certain things that we can do. There are certain acts of worship, of dua, that we can actually do that can prolong our lives. For example, a sadaqah will prolong your life. If you pay charity, if you give money or something to someone that's in need, an orphan, a stranger, a beggar, that will prolong your life. If you do certain supplications, if you say certain dua, that can prolong your life. Now, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite knowledge knows, for example, you will live 45 years, He knows that 45 years has been prolonged for maybe an initial 30 years because of certain acts that you do. And those certain acts that you do have caused and will lead you to live a longer life because of the certain worship acts that you have conducted in your life. So our dua is very meaningful. Our dua is very effective. And we have to have that mindset and believe in that so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can actually answer it and truly answer the call that He describes in the Holy Quran, that when we call upon Him, surely and indeed He will answer us. Sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. The second principle, and we will conclude, the second important principle to keep in mind so that our dua can be effective and so that we could really realize the impact of our dua is that we need to keep in mind, dear brothers and sisters, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only accept our supplications when there is good in answering the supplication for us. Whenever we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, whether we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for repentance, whether we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sustenance, whether we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to prolong our lives, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of these things. Maybe when you're younger, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, get you or to bless you with the latest system or the best games, whatever it may be. Anything that you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. Whenever we seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask for something, we think that which we're asking for is good for us. It's something that will be desirable for us. However, our knowledge, our wisdom is finite. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's awareness of everything is infinite. What I might ask for from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which I think is good for me, is desirable for me, might be bad for me. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not answer my call and will not answer my prayer because I am better off in the state and condition I am in without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fulfilling my request. And a common example of this, and I think a lot of us might have witnessed this in one way or another. All of us ask for rizq, for sustenance, correct? We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us more. The luxurious car, the bigger house, more money in the bank account. We can ask all of these things. And we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us more so that we can provide for our families and so that we can help others. There's nothing wrong with asking rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to ask for an increase in rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But maybe with some of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not answer our prayer and will not give us the increase in sustenance that we are desiring. Why? Because He knows in His infinite knowledge, if He gives us that increase in sustenance, then we will misuse that money that we have, that wealth that we have. I might become corrupt. I might do haram with that money that I have. We all know people that might have money, and how do they use that money? Unfortunately, they gamble with that money. They pay bribes with that money. They just waste that money. Now, the money, the wealth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a blessing that we should be so grateful for. And we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for wealth, for prosperity. But maybe if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants me that blessing, Him knowing what I will do with that money, what I will do with that wealth, and if what I will do with that wealth is going to be detrimental for me and in my life, and what will it result in, He might not answer my prayer. He might not give it to me. And that situation in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not answer my request because He knows that it is bad for me, it is detrimental for me, that is a big blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is blessing me in that situation because He is looking out for my best interest. I'll conclude with these verses from Dua al-Iftitah, where on the tongue of the Imam says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَإِنْ أَبْطَعَ عَنِّي عَتَبْتُ بِجَهْلِي عَلَيْكِ وَلَعَلَّ الَّذِي أَبْطَعَ عَنِّي هُوَ خَيْرٌ لِي لِعِلْمِكَ بِعَاقِبَةِ الْأُمُورِ. The translation is that the Imam alayhi salam is supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And look at the beautiful words. Look at how the Imam is speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that a temporary setback, and I, out of ignorance, begin to despair. Although perhaps slowing down may be a blessing in disguise, because you only alone know the consequences. The Imam is saying that I might pray for all sorts of different things, and I might feel like, oh Allah, you're not answering my prayer. that the answer is very slow. I don't see the impact. I don't see the effect. What I'm asking for is not happening. But the Imam is saying, but perhaps, maybe, you're not answering my prayer. It's because in your knowledge, you know that this is not best for me. فَلَمْ أَرَ مَوْلًا كَرِيمًا أَصْبَرَ عَلَىٰ عَبْدٍ لَئِيمٍ مِنْكَ عَلَيَّ يَا رَبِّ. The Imam continues and he says, I know no generous master who is more accommodating to dissatisfied servants than you, O Allah. Dear respected brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us in these holy months to seek Him, to supplicate to Him, to open our hearts and minds and ask for anything that comes to our mind. Ask for repentance, ask for forgiveness, ask for prolonging your life, ask for sustenance, ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showering your family with prosperity and with anything that you think might be good for you. Let's all make these prayers. Let's all supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's keep these two principles in mind so that inshallah we can receive the best outcome from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost, that whenever we raise a supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will receive that supplication because He is near us. And that our dua will be effective and that our dua does affect our lives and can implicate our life with the free will that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. But we need to remember that we have to have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if something is not good for us, if something is detrimental for us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give it to us. And that in itself is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll continue this discussion on dua and we will go more into the etiquettes of dua and how we should actually supplicate. What is the manners that we should have? How do we talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do we address Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do we stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so that we could put ourselves in the best situation possible to call upon Him so that He can answer all of us. And the last of our words is, Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.